So yeah, again, thank everybody for joining the webinar today. You have a lot of places you could be on a Friday afternoon, but you chose to spend it here with me, and I'm very appreciative of that. If you don't know, my name is Dawson Myers. If it's your first time here, welcome. But today, our webinar is going to be going over, does your warehouse need a YMS? So this question typically comes up a lot in conversations that I have with warehouse teams, logistics teams, and some companies are still using uh, manual processes to manage their yard, things like spreadsheets, paper, Outlook, phone calls, and even just someone's knowledge in their head to coordinate docks, parking slots. And then there are some that are to the mid-sized tier that are using things like your TMSs, your WMSs, and they're also wondering whether they could use something to cover the yard as well. So today, my goal is to make that question a bit easier to answer for you guys. So to go over a couple of things with the agenda, the first thing I'll go over is what a yard management system does as a whole, um, where it fits alongside the TMSs and the WMSs of the world. And also, I'll cover 5 signs that your yard has outgrown some of that manual work, some of those processes that I mentioned earlier. Then we'll go through a live demonstration of YMS Lite, and this will cover the full process from uh, a practice of going in from a planned arrival and then do a departure from the gate. Then I'll follow it up with some next steps and end with a Q&A session. Also, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm going to do my best to answer those questions. If I do miss them during the presentation, I'll try to get them at the end. But you guys, just any participation, bring it on. I'm very excited that you're here, like I said. So without further ado, I'll roll into the presentation. The first question, what does a yard management system actually do? And the goal of a yard management system is to help, once a vehicle reaches a facility, it facilitates movements in the yard and things that happen before it does actually leave the yard. So that includes things like your expected arrivals. This includes your driver check-ins, your trailer and your containers that are on site from the dock and or parking slots. And movements within the yard that do happen as well. So if it goes out the gate, you need to keep track of that. And then it does actually follow up with your final checkout. So the goal of the system essentially is to give one shared operational view instead of living in someone's memory or across clipboards, whiteboards, spreadsheets. So at a basic level, the goal of a YMS is to help your team answer 4 questions: what's currently on site, um, where each asset is located within the operation, how long it's actually sat there, and then what needs to happen next with that unit equipment. So if your team can answer those relatively fast and in a quick manner, someone join real quick. If your team is able to answer those relatively fast, you're in good shape, and your process is probably working pretty well. But if answering those questions requires things like several phone calls, walking outside, multiple files that have to get checked, that's when a YMS becomes pretty valuable and it does show its value for an operation. So this is probably one of my favorite parts of this webinar so far, because it's one of the most common objections that I do hear. We already have a TMS or we have a WMS that handles some of the yard movements. For those systems, they do support different processes, but each have a primary focus that are all separate and independent from each other. So your TMS, in other words, a transportation management system, what that handles is moving freight between locations. So this is going to help with things like your carrier selection, your routings, your shipment execution. I think freight cost comes into play here and overall just transportation visibility. What this does is, for example, if you have a trucker on the road in New Jersey heading to your facility, your TMS will give you visibility into where that guy actually is over the road. So that's the main focus of a TMS. The warehouse management system on the other end, that one helps with some of the inventory and workflows inside the warehouse. So what you see here is your pick in, your pack in, your put away, basically loading into the trailer from inside of the warehouse. Now, the YMS on the other end is it's a focus on between what happens between these two operations. So in the gate, it handles your arrivals at your facility, your drivers, the trailers, chassis, if you guys do handle chassis, some of the parking movements as well. It tracks dwell and then overall departures in the facility. So the simple version here and the main takeaway that I want you to get is that the TMS does handle the journey. Your warehouse management system handles the product, and the YMS handles the activities at the yard and the dock. And they can complement one another rather than replace another. Um, so when someone tells me that they already have a TMS or a WMS, I usually have a couple follow-up questions for them. It's like, can your team use that software to immediately see every asset that's on site right now? Um, can you see its exact location? Can you see its current status as a whole? And can you see how long it's been waiting for? If not, that's when you start to realize there could be a visibility gap within the yard. Question. I'm going to answer this question before I do start. Oh, sorry. Never mind. Just roll into this one. So, while yard management does get difficult, and why do we see people adapting YMS as a whole? So a yard management system usually doesn't become difficult overnight, right? There's usually a spreadsheet, a whiteboard, a paper log that can help with the operation when it's pretty small, pretty predictable. If you have lower volume, that's not necessarily where you see the problem. The challenge becomes when your business does start to grow and you see things like increased volume. There's more assets that get held on site for an extended period of time. Your dock doors and your parking positions get more involved in the operations flow. And then you also have several teams, several people that need some of the same information in this situation. So, for example, a driver may check in at one location, and your dock team may radio over that this asset needs to get moved to a parking slot. Well, if no one's in the know and every update's not recorded, do something that's shared immediately. Your different employees can come in with different versions of the yard. They begin to work off of that, and that's where some of the difficulties do come. So things like your early, your late arrivals, your unscheduled arrivals that do make it harder to manage when plans do change from the initial schedule throughout the day. That's what you see. So the issue isn't necessarily communication in the situation. It's not poor communication. The issue is that there's a lot of hoops to facilitate some of that communication. The manual communication is just broken uh, between different assets, different areas. Um, and it's hard to stay coordinated in that situation. So, what are the 5 signs that I see fit as you guys needing a YMS? It's five warning signs that you've kind of outgrown that manual coordination. You are starting to grow a little more. And as I do walk through these, I want you to think about how often these occur within your operation, and not only whether if it's only happened once before in the past. So the first thing would be that you can't immediately see everything that's on site. So someone has to check those manual processes actually identify where units are at that certain point in time. Someone has to walk outside to get an answer. The second thing is that employees regularly have to search for trailers and available space within your facility. So even a few searches a day can take away from some of your skilled labor, your meaningful labor time, can also pull away from things like higher value work like customer communications. And this can increase some of the overtime. If you have a budget for overtime, you're seeing more of an increase in overtime. Your manager gets pulled out. Third would be that the check-ins and assignments reply or depend heavily on radio or verbal handoffs. So this creates a risk of an update only reaching one person, but not the entire team. Fourth here would be your late and early arrivals that do disrupt some of the yard and dock activity. So your team may be able to adjust, but every surprise does create another round of calls, more adjustments, more decisions, more updates that have to be communicated accordingly. And with those older techniques, it's harder to do that. And fifth and last would be that you can't actively track your dwell time or identify some delays. So without having reliable time stamps for what's actually happened, when this happened, that's when things become harder to explain. So you can't necessarily identify bottlenecks. You can't identify where you're seeing some revenue leakage within the organization. So alone, these processes may not justify an entire system being adopted. But if you do have several things of this nature repeating, it does indicate that your current process no longer answers to your operation. You lose some of that visibility and control when it snowballs, and you have to adjust accordingly. All right. So what the right what the right YMS should simplify for your operation. Uh, it should make it easier to manage, right? So it should introduce more complexities than the problem actually requires at the end of the day. Your team should be able to work from one current view of the yard. Your employees should be able to uh, do arrivals, locate units, do dock scheduling, parking positions, coordination, and then update the team. Um, as conditions do change throughout the day. So another factor here is that your yard, your gate, your warehouse, they all need to be working from the same information without having to go through different hoops to find these things that could potentially be outdated as well. And for this situation, the right level of technology also matters. So for your larger enterprises, they may need things like deep integrations, some automation, even optimization. But for your smaller to mid-sized facilities, they might simply need clear visibility, better assignments, and it's just an easy process that the team can actually use and work from. So with that, that is the problem we built YMS Lite to address. So from here, I'm going to give a live demonstration of YMS Lite. Bear with me here while I do switch over to that, and we will go over that process. All right, thank you for bearing with me there. So now here, what I want to do is kind of walk through the yard, show you how this process works inside of YMS Lite as a whole, from the expected arrival to the check-ins, through its yard movements, the dock assignments, and then the final checkout. So the first thing I'll go over here is just creating an arrival. So this will begin with an event that happens throughout the day, and you'll have an entire schedule of what's actually happened, what's expected to come in within the yard. So I'll begin by creating a pickup, or excuse me, I'll do a delivery for this one actually. So you'll come here to new event, and you can specify delivery or pickup for that matter. And this is going to give you some of the information that you typically get from your load confirmation. So for example, let's say the driver wanted to come in here today at 12:30. You can use this reference number to identify things depending on how your operation works. It's highly customizable. So if you do BOL verifications, if you do appointment-based verifications, or even if it's just invoice verifications, you can customize that here. For me, I typically use reference numbers. So just fill that out, and then you can do information where it's coming from. For us, the most important thing here would be your truck drivers. So you want to get information on them, like their truck number. If they have a name, you can enter that here as well. And then if there's any additional information, so for example, if you want to verify a BOL, You can identify that here, confirm the number, and then leave extra information for your team to see depending on when that unit gets to your facility. Then here you'll go through the equipment. So you'll have a wide range of things that you could choose between a container on a chassis, two chassis on a container, or excuse me, two containers on a chassis, and then a trailer for our standpoint. Just going to keep it simple and go with a trailer. Then you can enter that trailer number as well. Enter that here. Then you can specify some of the cargo details. This can get highly customizable. So if you have 12 pallets, you can enter that here as well. If it's a reefer unit, you can enter that. But for our standpoint, just going to skip over that, show you the main functionality of this. So after that, you get a note that that arrival has been created. And you can scroll down here and see that Mr. Jeff Hardy is locked in for 12:30. So what this does, it records your arrivals before they happen. And you can see what's expected throughout the day, and it does have some flexibility here. So you're able to see the driver's name, the trailer, the truck number, the reference number, and then if you need to verify anything like that BOL, you can see that information here as well. So with that, just want to show you what that check-in looks like. So Mr. Jeff Hardy is here at 12:16. You can click here to deliver this. And this also does help your team with the gate. So instead of having to keep that information outside the system, you have all that here. But now once you do click check him in, you're able to identify where he needs to go. So for this example, we need him to go to a special dock. So I'm just going to hold him at a parking slot for now. You specify that, click place on the yard. And you're going to get a timestamp from here, and this is also going to be reflected in our locations tab here. So I'll go over here to the parking slots. Yep. So once that's assigned, the rest of your team is able to see that. And I can scroll down here to parking slot 1, and you have that unit. It's occupied there. And if you need to make a quick switch, for example, so let's say this unit came in loaded. Now that that dock that was required is open. You can sit here and click move. Gives you all the docks. So we're just going to put him at receiving dock 10. Maybe receiving dock 10 was a special type of load unit that this one needs to get handled, or it handles special load units. So you can click there. Second. Yeah. So you get the notification that that freight was successfully moved, and you could click here to the docks. And you can see that unit was actually moved here to receiving dock 10. You get the timestamp as well. So in the cases where, for example, one of these dock doors, maybe your dock door needs to get repaired, you can lock it, and then you're able to quickly adjust the plan based off what was previously scheduled for that day without having any hiccups, and your whole team is actually able to see that reflection of what's actually happening in the system. So from the yard overview here, you do also have a current list of everything that's on site, not only here in the docks and parking slots, but you do have a detailed list here in the inventories tab as well. And it has every unit where it's located, if it's loaded, if it's not loaded as well. Parking, your containers, your trailers, your chassis. So I'll go back to the dock, and then once it is time, let's say this unit here is loaded. You can specify that, save it. And now when your team goes into that specific unit, they can see that that unit is loaded. So from the departure time, let's say you want to pick this up. You already have a driver scheduled to pick that up. You just find the trailer here on this tab. You go to parking, I believe that was receiving dock 18. So I'll find that unit. Excuse me, no, it was this one. Yep. So you can find that at receiving dock 10. It's loaded, and then you can depart it from this page, this tab as well. So you click depart, and it's going to ask you a couple of things. So the reference number, if you have that a reference number, you can enter that here. So I'll just do another reference number for this one. for the destination. You can get really specific down to the exact address for this one. For our standpoint, just going to use Atlanta because I'm here right now and I use it all the time. You can enter your trucking number for that name as well. And let's just say I have Mr. Jeff's brother picking this up. So Matt Hardy, specify that there. And then any additional information you can enter here. But once that's done, you can depart that from your inventories tab. And you do have a record here in the histories tab of that unit and what happened. And just to show you how that looks, I'll go down here to view details. So you can see this trailer came in empty. There was nothing there. You get the arrival details here. So Jeff Hardy delivered it. Here was the BOL that was with that. Here's the reference number, and here's the time. You also do have a detailed process of what happened. So as you guys just watched, it was delivered to the yard. I moved it to parking slot 1. It was moved from parking slot 1 to dock 10. You can see the details here where it's changed from not loaded to loaded. And then you have the departure details here as well. So it was picked up at 12:20 p.m. And then you do have the departure details here as well. So now that unit has came into your facility, it has been checked in, it's been moved around, and then it's been checked out. And you have the full details of what happened on that specific unit in your yard. So with that, I am going to jump back over to our presentation. Again, bear with me here while I get everything up and running. All right, and I will switch back over here to the presentation. So after reviewing YMS Lite, the question is YMS Lite right for your operation? So the idea behind YMS Lite is that it's built for your smaller, mid-sized 3PL warehouses, your cross-dock facilities that do need that first step into better visibility from the yard standpoint without tackling on that large enterprise system that could eat up a lot of your budget. So what it does, it provides your first practical step beyond some of the spreadsheets, the verbal communication. And the goal of this was to keep centralized information all in one place and give your team a process um, without changing things, making everything pretty straightforward and with an easier chance to learn and maintain everything. So YMS Lite might not be the right for your facility, but if your operation is dealing with things, reoccurring visibility issues, your coordination, and a full enterprise system might be a bit excessive, it might be the right level of solution for you. So with that, I do want to kind of talk on next steps and return back to the original question and the main topic of the webinar. Um, does your warehouse need a YMS? The answer does depend um, whether another system already gives your team reliability of control, not simply whether your own transportation or warehouse already has some kind of software. So I want to go back to distinguishing your TMS from your WMS and your warehouse management systems. If you remember, TMS is the journey. So between locations, if you have one address here, one address there, the warehouse management system manages the product. So everything inside of the building, and the goal of a YMS is to give you details into activities between your gate, your yard, your parking slots. So these systems can complement one another. They don't have to be separate because they all do solve individual problems. Um, so if you already have a TMS, a YMS, or a WMS, ask yourself whether your team can accurately identify what's on site, where each asset is located within a parking slot, a dock, how long it's been waiting there, and if you need a better look into what needs to happen next. So if answer of some of those questions is still handled in things like spreadsheets, radios, phone calls, um, there's a chance that there is still a yard visibility gap, and a YMS light is designed to help close that gap. So if it is something that you guys would like to explore more into your own operation, what I would like to do is book a short discovery call. This is where you walk me through your current yard process. Then I can show you what that looks like inside of YMS Lite, configured around your operations, your yard, and then we can discuss the complimentary trial that is exclusive to joining the webinar. So typically our offer is a 15-day free trial, but since you guys have joined and participated in the webinar, we are actually offering a 30-day free trial as opposed to our normal 15-day free trial. But with that, that is all for me. If you do have any questions, now I'm going to open the floor up. And if you don't have anything, thank you for joining again. I do appreciate you guys joining. And take care. Have a good Friday. I know I'm going to have a good Friday. Anyways, I will open the floor up to questions. Couple coming through. What size or type of operation is YMS like not good for? That's a good question because YMS Lite is highly customizable, so it could potentially handle your bigger distribution facilities if need be. So maybe 100 dock doors. It's specifically made for the midsize, but if you do want to make it work, there's a possibility you can make the system work with your larger enterprise systems as well. Um, Got one. Since you're on a website, is there a mobile app or is this a desktop or browser? So it's a cloud-based system. It's browser accessed, but that doesn't limit the capabilities that you could do. So you can access this on a website, on your phone, and or a tablet. For example, I have a tablet where if I needed to check someone in, go outside into the yard and check that person in manually, you could do that on a tablet. Essentially, the exact same thing is happening now. Um, let's see, how does a facility handle, or excuse me, how does it handle a facility with many dock doors, high volume? Does it scale or is it strictly a light, simple tool? No, that kind of goes back to the other question that I answered. So it can scale to your larger facilities. So this is catered to our mid-sized facilities that could have more docks than another facility. Um, but it does scale. So like I said, if you do have a larger operation and you want to see what that looks like for your um, operation, scan that discovery code and I could build that out for you and show you what it looks like inside the system as well. So if any other questions come through, I'm just going to hang around for a bit longer. Looks like we're almost perfect on time. Oh, not you guys have a great weekend. Take care, and I do appreciate you guys joining the webinar.